Back in the barn again. Yes. Number 4. So this is the 4th Chevette in my collection. Currently, my original 84 is still a work in progress. The interior donor 2-door 86. Maybe some body parts off that one once I get a chance to get around to it. And then the Acadian. I think you guys may remember this one with all the hacked wiring under the hood, which I still haven't really got around to. So this guy's story. This one here is an 86. It is a 4-door. It's been pooped on, but that's just from simply sitting in here. And even though it's dirty inside, believe it or not, I have cleaned this already. It was full to the roof with stuff. This sat in somebody's yard for a long time. A new person bought that same property and wanted to get this car gone, send it to the scrapyard or whatever. The front end was obviously involved in some kind of collision. Anyway, so for a good price, I was able to pick this one up. It has no title, which is not a problem with me. It is smashed, and it's beyond repair. This car, it's very pushed back on this driver's side here. The whole rear quarter is basically mush. But this is another parts car for me now. So the only things that I've had to do off camera, I put a pry bar on the fender and pulled it forward. So now I can actually open and close the door to get access inside. I pulled the steering column apart, the wheel I pulled off, because there's no key for this thing. So I pulled the ignition switch right out of it. And now I've got the electronic ignition sitting down at the bottom, and I can activate that switch manually to try to turn the car over. Problem is, the engine doesn't want to turn. It seems like it may be seized. I've got it filled with old engine oil and transmission fluid, and it's been sitting for, oh geez, more than 3 weeks now like that. So it's been sitting for a long time, so maybe it'll crank over with a wrench on it, maybe it won't. Really, that's not a huge concern of mine. What I'm going to do today is try to strip out as much of this car as I can, because it's never going to be on the road, and it is taking up valuable space for me in this barn. So it's time for it to downsize a bit. So I'm going to be ripping into this guy, and I'll take you guys along with me. Alright, so we're making a bit of progress on this thing. Lots more to go. What I want to do is kind of try to move this guy into this parking stall because he's completely in the way. It couldn't be worse. I'm thinking I'll put the back of it in first if I can, because the back of it should be lighter and hopefully a little easier to move. So that's going to be my first attempt to relocate this guy. Let's see what we can come up with here. Maybe I can put it on wheels and roll it over there, so to speak. I know that floor is really bad. Well, let's see what we can do here. I've got my chain fall set up. On the outside of the barn I put a pipe, big steel pipe through with the chain loop through it, and then my chain fall's tied to the rear end of the car. So I'm going to see if this will be enough to kind of drag the ass end into this area, and then once it's in this area, to just push it back with the lawnmower or something is a lot easier of a task rather than trying to manhandle it myself. So let's see if this is going to at least get us anywhere. I gotta catch my breath a little bit now. Well, I finally got this fella back in his parking stall. I should say into his parking stall for the first time. When it showed up here, I just pushed it into the barn with my dad, and that's about where it stopped. So it hasn't really been moved since, and all 3 of the tires typically go flat after sitting for a day. I filled this one twice already, and it's already completely flat. I didn't even get over to this one on the front. Stayed completely flat. That rear one I filled once. The other side I just topped up, but that chain fall made this job a heck of a lot easier. It was still a little difficult because the chain fall is meant to work when it's hanging, so having it lay on the ground, you get a lot of binding with the chain. But it did work. It did the job, and I'm happy for that because now I've got a little bit of space back here that I can actually use to get the trailers in and out because I was completely loaded up. So this car, next step of the game here is stripping out the interior. The doors are going to come off. Anything that's possibly salvageable, I'm going to put aside, take out of this car, and when I'm finished with it, I will get rid of whatever scrap metal happens to be remaining. The Acadian fired up, awesome. It never really gave me an issue even from the beginning, which is fantastic. Even with all the cut wires, it still started. They're still cut, but they're just kind of patched together right now, so it halfway works. So I used my little portable air pump, that new black pump with the red hose. That's who I had to fill these tires up with. And yeah, I was able to tear some parts and bits and pieces off this car for now. Here's some assorted hardware, nuts, bolts, sort of thing. The chin spoiler there is completely destroyed. Although it's physically all there, I don't know if that's something that gets put back together. I doubt it. It's pretty mangled. The taillights I was super excited about. Now this means I've got 2 decent sets of taillights. Even the trim molding for under the taillights on both of these is in pretty fair shape. Neither of them are smashed out or dented, so that's really good. One of the marker lights is gone, but I do have extra marker light in good condition. And it looks like it might have cracked this revealed molding here. And that's part of this rear tail light, but the lens itself is intact, which was a big part of what I wanted. 2 more marker lights, which are pretty decent. And then there's a bunch of interior pieces in this car. never really showed you guys inside this car, so now's the time if you're interested. Let's have a look-see here. So the whole side of this car, I said this earlier, it's all smashed up. Everything's out of alignment. This door kind of works. This door binds on the front door, but both of these doors are all rusted out. They're not really worth saving. I'm taking them apart simply for the hardware, handles, lock mechanisms, window cranks, so on and so on. So sitting in this car, the first time I really sat in it, I actually broke the mount for the seat. It came right out as soon as I kind of sat down, so the seat's busted, but that's okay. 194,000, let's say 195,000 kilometers. And all the steering wheel guts, like I mentioned earlier, are just in the back. So this has the headlight switch trim is in good shape. I took out the under the column already trim that's in the trailer. Look at that radio bezel with the heating controls. That's all in fantastic shape. And I did have power to this thing once upon a time. That radio works. It is clear as a bell. There's no static or nothing. So I'm super excited to have that guy available to me. The console covers in the back again, and that one's okay. Glove box does function. It works. I don't have any gray interior cars, so I'm probably not going to utilize the lower dash section, but I will take it out. I'm going to dye this to match one of my other cars, and I'll use the radio bezel because all the ones I have I think have been cut up to put different stereos in. Door panels, yes, they'll be coming out. Visors will be coming out. I will take the seats out regardless. This won't flip forward because it's a 4-door. The headliner is a little bit saggy. Typical. It's destroyed. The glass in this car is okay with the exception of the windshield. The windshield will be gone. I already took the rear hatch off of this guy. I'm going to take the blower out. Any of the other components, the engine, the transmission are coming out. The rear end's coming off. So this car, when it's gone, will just be a shell of useless metal. The undercarriage is rotten out completely too. Let's take a look. Oh, first day I had this car, the glass came out of the driver's side. It didn't break, it just came out. So I put it in the back of the Pontiac. Safe and out of the way. Let's have a look back here. So the rear end of the car has been pretty much ripped apart now. So that's good.